Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Rise with Sarah Sincotta. We have a very special episode today, and I'm wanting to welcome the amazing Ludwina, CEO and founder of the Room Xchange. Thank you so much, Ludwina, for jumping on today and joining me.
I'm glad that we finally got around to it. So thanks for having me.
I am. And Ludwina, I'm going to read something out that is on your website and really resonates with how this conversation is going to go today. We can't build our way out of this housing crisis, but we can share our way through it. Because right now we have a housing insecurity, and it's been a big topic. And I love that you are bringing awareness to what's actually going on behind the scenes and how we can, as a collective, come together to support what's actually going on. So, Ludwina, I would love to start with you sharing about you and your journey so far.
I'll try and keep it brief. It's been a long one. I have never had a day job. I've been an entrepreneur in a literal sense for 30 years. I've actually been working from home for 30 years. So, I consider myself a pioneer, I guess, in various different industries. I first was started out producing TV back in the analog days when Optus Vision was first launched, and I created my first show was called Straight Talk, which, you know, if you think about 30 years ago, we were talking about a bunch of various different social issues on this show, as mental health, sexuality, relationships, politics, religion. We were like digging into some really deep conversations, and I was directing that panel of 15 to 20 people that were, you know, sort of around the 20 to 25-year-old age bracket. I was really fascinated by people. I always have been. That then went on to being offered to produce some further shows. So my next one was TV.com. I should have bought the URL. And then I was sponsored by Apple and Optus Vision to come up with a concept that we could market and promote in schools that was media-based. And so I created a program called Media Minds, which was a hands-on video production workshop that we ended up running in over 300 schools in Adelaide, Brisbane and Melbourne. I feel like I had something to do with Apple getting into schools. But that was hugely successful. And, you know, we used to send a 10-page fax to the schools back then. So that's going back a long time, so pre-internet, pre-digital. Then digital started to come in, and I sort of needed to pivot myself. And I was one of the first students to come out of the life coaching scene when it was first launched. And I was really interested in people getting to have a better understanding of people. I was doing a lot of personal work. I've continually had to do that throughout my life because I had pretty difficult experiences as a child. And having had 2 young kids myself, never wanted to pass any of that on to them. So I was going through that process. And so I ended up becoming an accredited master coach and NLP practitioner as one of the earlier ones to do that. And then from there, I created a women's business events company because women were just really starting to develop their own business practices at that time. And very much sort of probably more in the line of side hustles, just like stepping away or maybe thinking about stepping away from their jobs, or maybe just actually a lot of them at the time this was a long time ago, were really thinking about coming out from being full-time mums and having something for themselves. And so I started the Red 10 events, and this was a massive thing. We ended up in 5 states in Australia running these events, and I was business coaching a number of those women. And we used to have 3-course dinner over candlelight in restaurants, and it was just an amazing experience. And a lot of people listening to this might actually have been some of those participants. But I was launching in Perth. The day that we were launching there, I was diagnosed with a 14-centimetre tumour on my kidney. So I went down a kidney cancer route for quite a while, without having to go into the details. I'm nearly 14 years clear now. I live with one kidney quite well, as long as I keep my life stress-free, which is an oxymoron being a CEO and founder, but it's another story. But through that time, while I was recovering from multiple surgeries, I asked myself a good question, what can I do that keep my business brand alive that doesn't require me to look good, feel good, or go anywhere? Because I literally needed 12 months to recover from the surgery because there was a chance I wasn't going to survive it. And I thought, well, podcasting was starting to become a thing. So I thought, oh, it's 2010. I'll try that. I've produced TV before. It can't be that much different.
Mhm.
And then it ended up becoming this thing. I was one of the first B2B podcasters in Australia. I think #1 on iTunes a couple of times, and always got on You and Noteworthy. And then that sort of took me down really this huge sort of digital and tech route. And then from there, I just started to then consult on a higher level with other tech companies, started to invest in tech. And then I started to get mentored by some pretty serious players in the tech industry. And as a result of that, ended up on the board of a video streaming platform, raised capital for it. My husband's on the board of another tech company, which is an invention, and helped raise capital for that. So when the Room Xchange came along, it was, I'm trying to give it all in brief here. 30 years is a long time, but I've always created business models essentially out of creating a solution for myself. And this particular one, when my eldest son left home, he was about 22, he's nearly 31 now. So it was a while ago. I cried like most mothers do when their first kid left home, walked past his room and like,
Yeah.
and then about a year later, I was just thinking, this beautifully ordained bedroom, it's got a really nice queen size bed and beautiful quilt and suffering from pillification more than anyone sleeping in it. It's costing me about $200 a week. Like I just saw it. And so I thought, I'm going to do something with it. My daughter was still at home. I love the dynamic of having both the kids there. The energy was different when my son left. Anyway, that's pretty much how the journey started. It began that way. And then after having a few years and having, I know, half a dozen housemates come and live with us, my friends started asking me, wow, this is a great idea. Where can we find someone? And then when I hear something is a good idea 3 or more times, I get entrepreneurial antennas growing out of my head. And it's like, oh, there's something in this. And so I paid attention to it. And then I did some market research. And then, we talked to my husband about it. He runs his own business in the industrial electrical industry. It's got nothing to do with what I do. But he said, look, this is a really great idea. And he said, you should do it. And I went, okay. So then I raised capital. I raised about 800,000 in our seed round after, 8 months pitching up and down the East Coast, got about probably 60 no's. And then I thought, I'll stuff this. I'll put on my own pitch event. And that's what I did. I hired a pub in South Melbourne, the Honey Bar. And, you couldn't fit any more people in the room. There was people spread out everywhere. And I had celebrities there and people in media and VC funds who I'd been pitching to, but wanted to come and see what, I guess what I could pull off. And then, the people who came to support me, I had Greville Paps, who's one of the judges on the block, MC the night. I had Dr. Jim Menifee, who's one of the directors at the Grattan Institute, open the night. I had Chris Adams, who's ex-Facebook, fly down from Queensland, talk about innovation. I had, Todd Clappers from South Australian Government talk about house sharing. Like, it was amazing, the support that I got. And then overnight, I had 4 offers from VC funds who were in the room for meetings. And on Friday, I closed a deal. We agreed on a deal. It was a very long road from that point, and a lot has, happened since then. But we're now heading into our 7th year, and COVID came along right at the point of when we were scaling. Literally, 3 years in, we were scaling, and bam, doors shut. Every single door in the country, in Melbourne was closing, and nobody else around the country was open to house sharing. And that's another story which we could continue with. I'll leave that up to you.
Yeah. Ludwina, thank you. It's I always like to start with hearing people's journey, because what a phenomenal journey you have had. And thank you for being so vulnerable about some experience that you've had. And just by hearing you speak, the resilience that you've had. And also, it wasn't until I went in the entrepreneurial space that I actually realized how much goes into the prop tech industries. So for the real estate professionals that are watching today, and or this episode, sorry, if you won't be able to understand unless you actually speak to someone like Ludwina, how much you need to go through, and the pitch that you need to do, the funding, raising capital to get your idea off the ground and have people support you. And it's just phenomenal what you were able to pull off, and especially during COVID. Yeah. And success that you've had so far, because you have won some awards this year. So tell everyone about your awards, because it's amazing.
Yeah, thanks. So since we started, we've won 5. The 2 this year were really quite significant. The first major one was PropTech Association Award, for most innovative scale up in environmental, social, and sustainability. And the other one, we were finalists in Wyndham Business Awards. It's a massive business award in Western Suburbs in Melbourne. It's been running for 27 years. We're a finalist in excellence in sustainability, and then we actually won the excellence in innovation and technology. And so to have that level of recognition this year, because the tech is just phenomenal, but it's years of building to get it right. This is not a website. This is a platform. There's a lot of technology behind it. And to, be recognized that the impact that we're having, not just in environmental, but socially as well, it's pretty remarkable. I'm really proud of what we've achieved in our team, and win these awards has just been, it's great recognition. It's nice for the ego, but it's really great recognition for the whole team as well, and for the work that you've done. It's like, yeah, okay, because you know what it's like. You get bogged down every day with a daily grind of what it is that you're doing, and so to win that. But it's interesting. There's another side note to actually winning awards. If anyone's listening, the process of actually writing the award in and of itself is incredibly rewarding, because it's like doing a shareholder update. If you've never done one before, you'll know what I mean. Well, if you have done one before, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of like you're articulating everything that you've done, how everything works, problems that you've solved, and the problems that you're solving in the market. And it's just like, oh, wow, it has been a lot.
Yeah.
So thank you. Yeah.
It's funny you say that, because I was catching up with the Reach Australia team last night, the prop tech guys, and it was great. I love picking their brains. But that was what we were talking about, is the lead up to actually doing the submissions, and also reflecting on how large your contribution has been to be able to put in that submission, and to be a finalist and then to win award. It's about your contribution and the difference that you're making and the impact that you're making, right? So 13.5 million unused bedrooms across Australia, because let's talk about this, because this is where the Room Exchange comes in and is helping.
Yeah, well, neatly rounded off to 13 million, so I can do the maths. But when you think about it, and not a lot, and that's according to the 2021 ABS, so there's probably more now.
Yeah,
because things have shifted a bit, post-COVID, in terms of how people were using a lot. But these are specifically unused spare bedrooms, so they're not rooms that people are using as a home office. It's existing housing stock that's laying dormant in a lot of homes who are struggling with 13 interest rate hikes. So the really interesting point that we're at now as a company, it really used to, the primary focus used to be more on, housemates finding affordable rentals. We used to get 25% homeowners, 75% renters. Now it's 50-50, and sometimes it's even more on the homeowner side of things, because the need is just as great there. Now, the average mortgage, I don't know if I got the maths exactly right. You might know, from what I heard, it's about 560,000. So if you, with the interest rate hikes, you're talking about $14,000-15,000 a year.
Yeah.
Additional. Yeah. And a spare bedroom, conservatively, is worth about $1,000 a month in rent. And so that's pretty much most of that interest covered. And a whole stack of other benefits on top of that as well. But let's just look at that benefit. So we are now also helping homeowners hang on to their homes. And if you think about, middle class, or what's known as middle class housing in the burbs, just a sort of typical sort of family home, we're all only 2 paychecks away from losing it. Like, hardly anyone's got, the number of reserves that's required in the bank to be able to hang on to it if a big issue happened. Like, I was 44 and 3 days of lower back pain, and I found out I had a 14-centimeter tumor on my kidney. That's getting hit by a bus moment, right? You don't know when that's ever going to happen.
Right.
Yeah. And so, having that insecurity there around your own home, it's pretty intense. And then conversely, this is the first time in 31 years that I've been in the housing market that the term rental crisis has ever come up. It's like, it's absolutely insane. And forgive me, but how in the hell did we get here? Like, how stupid is our leadership in this country that they didn't have the foresight to go, well, if we don't start doing something different now, we're going to have this problem in 4 or 5 years. But when you look at the high turnover of prime ministers that we've had, leadership in our country, and then they're only in office for 4 years or something, then who's taking responsibility for any of the outcomes? Nobody is. It's ridiculous. It's nobody that you can pinpoint to say this is your fault. I mean, they stopped building low-cost housing many years ago. My grandparents, lived in social housing their entire life. They were quite comfortable. It was, once you're in there, you can stay in there. Yeah. They stopped building them. They started selling them. Whereas we're not even talking about people who are homeless or low cost or DV or drug or alcohol related.
Yeah.
That's that market. And we're not that market, but that's that market. And we're talking about people that are experiencing rental insecurity, mortgage insecurity, like the housing insecurity issues are hitting everybody.
Everyone. Yeah.
Everyone.
It is.
Except for those who own their home and are not only asset wealthy, but also have cash in the bank. But there's another one. I know for a fact that there are a stack load of elderly people who are aging in place. They live in absolute stunning homes, but a cash poor. But because their assets worth over, 700,000 or something, they can't get access to pensions.
Yeah.
So they either have to sell their home. So that means sell their entire history of their home. If they're widowed, for example, they're alone. They know the people in the area. They know the shops. They have familiarity. And I know we need to be getting those homes into the hands of families. I know that we need to do that. But the reality is, I don't think we were supposed to live this long. We're living longer.
We are living longer.
We are living longer. So, but I don't think anybody's actually really sat down and thought about that either. So how are we going to make it easier for people who are in their tender years of life, who've worked their entire life, paid taxes their entire life, paid their home off? How are we going to tell them they've got to downsize to a shoebox in an area where they don't know anybody? And then, we've got to start figuring out smarter ways to solve this problem. And the Room Xchange is one way. It's not the only way, but it's one way. So what if that person, we've got a woman at the moment, Poppy, and she's in Fitzroy. She's got her husband passed away a year ago, and she's hired us through our premium services to find someone for her. And, she's only $200 a week. It's in Fitzroy. It's close to everything. She just wants companionship. She wants somebody to have a meal with sometimes and someone to have an natter with. And she loves going to the art galleries. And gosh, she's the coolest woman. And there's a lot of people like that, we could be sharing their homes and helping, solve a solution for both of them. Yeah. Solve a problem, for both.
Yeah, I even know a dear friend of mine, she actually has utilized your services, and she was just saying a similar situation to what you were talking about earlier. Kids had left home. It was just her on her own, wanted company. She had a beautiful sanctuary, and she's putting a room forward, but it's actually changing someone's life as well, Ludwina. Because you said a few things, but I see so many people pointing the finger at different people, and real estate agents and property managers and sales agents have had a lot of hits this year about, rental prices increasing and things like that. But our government hasn't made it easy for investors to hold properties. In fact, they've actually made it difficult for investors to hold. And the new buyers that are coming into the market are owner occupiers. We're not seeing the numbers like we used to see because of the expenses. And then you've got renters on the other hand saying, well, you've just got greedy landlords. They just want, extra money. And there's just all these fingers pointing everywhere. And like you said, no one's taking responsibility. But the fact is, we do not have enough houses to accommodate for our population. And next year, we're going to see an influx of students, more students coming. Where are they going to go?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know. Look,
the
issues are just staggering on all fronts. And I'm like you, I'm a rent investor, so we rent where we live, and I'm self-managed landlord for our home, which was our family home in Newport in Melbourne. And I have tenants. So, and I deal with an agent. Really, we're fortunate. We've got a fantastic agent. And I have had enough conversations in the real estate sector to just have the hugest amount of empathy for property managers. I cannot imagine what it would be like for them to have gone through the last year of having just an inundated inundated with requests for one property. So 1,500 applications, how are they supposed to decide? They have to decide that in the best interest of the landlord, what's in the best interest of the landlord is the amount of rent they could get, the best tenants, etc. How do they make that decision when there's a 50 to 100 of them? Who are the ones that are not getting the properties? You know, their hearts would be breaking to the people that they have to say no to. I can't imagine the mental health issues that would have come out of that industry this year would be staggering. I really hope that they've got the support that's needed, and the amount of issues that they're being hammered with all the time around it, I do feel for them greatly. I also feel that the rental industry is still running on archaic models, and that is creating more issues. But renting used to be just a stepping stone to people leaving home, and you save some money. It used to be the cheaper option. You save some money and then you get a deposit and move out. But now in some places it's just as expensive to rent as it is to have a mortgage. So that's a massive problem there too. Landlords, there are good and bad landlords. I know what the difference is. I've experienced both of that as well. As a landlord myself, I take the approach that my relationship with our tenants is a business arrangement. And if I had a business and they were spending the amount of money that my tenants are spending per year paying rent for our property, I'd be bending down and doing whatever it is that I could to keep them. You know what I mean? Like, seriously, if you had someone spending $25,000, $30,000, $35,000, $40,000 a year, whatever the amount is in rent, if that was a business client, you would be really making sure that they had everything that they needed to be really comfortable in that place. I don't know why we don't seem to have that approach. I think there needs to be some requirements that landlords have to meet before they can become a landlord, but then again, that's more restrictions putting on them in an area that's already limited. But I don't know, even $5,000 kitty that has to be put aside, just in case the stove breaks or something breaks down. I think there just needs to be some shifts there. But the other thing that I think as well, I think there needs to be able to be some conversations that can be had between the owner of the property and the person renting it. And I'm not saying do away with the agent. The agent has definitely got a job there to do. But I know that my relationship with my tenants is based on mutual respect. They know who I am. If there's an issue, they contact us. My husband's very handy. He gets around there as soon as he can to fix it. I know that's not always the case for all landlords, but it happens to be with us. When we sign a lease, they come over for dinner. We sit down. I cook for them. We, break bread together, and we say cheers, to another year or two, however long they want to stay for. When they have Christmas drinks, they invite us over. It's a business relationship. That's how I've always seen it.
Yeah.
And it's not viable for everybody. I get that, but I think having a conversation or even some connection humanizes the relationship.
Look, Ludwina, I think you make a good point, because, from being in the property management hat and looking at it from your perspective, and I think going forward, we are going to see that the relationship aspect is so important. And because we are in the same position as, rent vesting, and I'm in the investor group forums online, and they don't have any idea. They're just going off this person or family based on a piece of paper, what they filled out, or the reference checks. That there's, like what you said, there's no human element to that. So how amazing if, when signing the lease, especially if the investors are living in the same state, that property manager, the tenants, and the landlords sit down and go, okay, this is us,
Yes.
and looking at it that way, because it's not just a transaction. And renters who do feel valued, because that's their home. It's not just a place that they're renting. It's their home. So we've got to look at it from both aspects. Investors, yes, we need to encourage, and this is where I hope there's more assistance, more landlords to be able to hold, because they are feeling that the pressures of new legislation changes, new taxes, capital gains, compliance, as well as the interest rates. However, we also need to look at, well, they do the right thing by their renters. The renters are going to do the right thing. They're probably going to stay longer, because the reason renters are usually renting now is because they can't afford to put up a deposit to purchase a home. And I know that there are some companies doing some beautiful things in terms of shared equity to help these people. But if they could go and afford to buy their own home, they would do it. They're renting for a reason. And it's just putting that compassion, empathy side towards that relationship as well too, because it's a win-win, right?
Yeah. And I also think we need to get back to assuming the best out of people, because it has been my experience in 57 years on this planet that the majority of people in the world are good people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And like when we came to hadn't put a rent rise in 2 years, and said to the guys, we're going to need to do one this year. The market value that I can increase it to, I think it's going to be too much. Can you just let me know what you can afford? And we agreed on an amount that they could afford. So, I'd much rather that than, I don't know,
losing them,
whinge over $1,000 for the year or something. And then, it's just
conversational communication.
It's just a conversation. Absolutely just a conversation, and I even said to the guys as well, I said, look, you can have a 2-year lease, whatever, no, he's fine. I said, okay, well, look, if you ever need to leave, just give us 3 months notice so that we can do a changeover. So there's no loss in rent. Don't worry about if your lease is, not up yet or not. If you have to leave, that's fine. Just help us with it. And we've been doing that for 9 years. And I think the most we've ever been out of rent is probably 2 months in 9 years.
Wow. Yeah. Phenomenal.
They all come over for dinner when they sign a lease.
I love it. I love that this perspective and the mindset. I'm glad we spoke about that. I want to talk about off air. We spoke about, and you told a story, and I love this because I feel like we are missing a piece, and that is the community aspect. So when I associate with the Room Exchange, it is you are bringing together people who have a purpose, and they're also helping with the housing insecurity at the moment. Because I shared with you, Ludwina, that a few days ago, one of our neighbors down the road, they're on the other side, got broken into, and they didn't know their neighbors on either side, so they had nowhere to go for help. And I think let's bring back that community aspect. And this is amazing that you also are helping people that are feeling lonely. Yeah. That perhaps, like you said about, was it Poppy, her name?
Yeah.
Poppy, she's lonely, but now she's got someone, and she probably feels safer as well. And she's making that extra income so she can hold her property too. So how can we get involved as a community? How can more people get involved?
I think one of the important things here to think about is, what is it that actually creates suburbs? And they're pockets of people in a particular area. They've got particular services there. There's a vibe around the area. People get to know each other. They bump into each other at the coffee shop. That then gets broken down into probably even more of a micro version of the neighborhood. What happens when people don't know their neighbors? This is something that's really frightening. That the situation that you just described. Do you remember when, I don't know if you're old enough, or even if it still exists, Neighborhood Watch? It used to be.
Yes.
Yeah. That used to be a thing. I haven't heard about that for years. And then all the people in the neighborhood would volunteer and, be on watch certain days of the week or whatever it was, the roster. We have actively tried to get to know the neighbours across the road, either side of us. Culturally, there's a bit of an issue there, although I'm half Indian and there's a big Indian community here, so I don't know what that is, but there's a family around the corner. They're from England. I give their kid free art lessons because I'm also an artist, and so we have a connection with them through this shared interest. And that has, we're catching up for a Christmas dinner in a couple of weeks, and they don't have any family here, so they sort of look, we're on their emergency contact list at the school. And it's that, she was only crying when I was talking to her about, put us down, if you need any help, just call us. And it takes a tribe to raise a child. She goes, oh my God, thank you. And and that's just a prime example. That's one example, one benefit. The other benefit is we want people to hang their paintings and their family photos in their house. If you are renting and you can only get a year lease, and you can't get longer than that, and this is an issue with 75% of investment properties are owned by mum and dad investors. They don't know what they want to do with the property, so they don't want to give you at least more than a year at a time. Then how are the people actually going to embed roots in the house and then really care about the neighborhood? That's an issue. That also creates housing insecurity, our current rental, the way that our rental market's set up. There's the safety and security of our streets, the dynamics of being able to support each other. That's from a collective. Now, when you talk about your own home and space within your own home, we talk about that the Room Exchange is creating micro communities in the most intimate place of all, which is home. And we have a lot of McMansions that have been built in Australia.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know who in their right mind actually decided that families, you know, majority of people in Australia in the previous generations would probably have 2, maybe 3 kids max. And now, you know, that's dwindled down even more. So what are we going to do with these McMansions, or what are we doing with people that are living in them? We've got all these rooms. You know, usually there's like 3 bathrooms, 4 toilets, 3 living rooms, 4 bedrooms, you know, sharing them. Or your kids are grown up and left home, you can share them. Or you're an elderly person living in a home, you can share. Sharing is not this new concept. It has been around for centuries.
Yeah.
They used to call it boarding, Sarah. Boarding, right? So boarding essentially is that you have a room and you come in and you pay to, you know, stay in that room. Sometimes food will be provided, sometimes not, depends on the arrangement. And, you know, they're at a month by month basis. And then as long as you're behaving, you can stay, you know.
We paid board as kids.
Yeah. Oh, kid. Yeah, we did as well. You know, and then, you know, and then the person can move on when they want to, because it's, you know, usually a month by month thing. There's benefits to that for both parties. And then with our platform, firstly, we have mandatory verification, but secondly, the profiles make it easy to be matched based on personality, values, and lifestyle. So you feel like you're coming home to a friend.
Yeah.
And that's a key thing. So in the 9 years that we've been house sharing, we've shared with like such a diverse group of people, but the underlying values have always been there, the value of respect. They always massively respect the fact that they're stepping into somebody else's home. It's their house, it's their things, the furniture in the bedroom is theirs. There's this humility that always comes along with it. It's never not been there, never not been there. And they come in and they get to utilize the things that are in the common areas of their home. And then you create this friendship. And I don't know about you, but, you know, look, when you're in your 50s and you're a woman, it's pretty difficult to make friends. Your kids are grown up and left. There's usually that sort of connection of friendships were around you, kind of family vibe. And this gives me friends in my home. So I love my husband to death, but we've been married 31 years. A dinner table conversation gets a bit stale. You know, it's good for him too. He's not got me eyeballing him at the time saying, come on, talk to me, talk to me.
Yeah.
You know, there's a bit of a break in that. And we've got all these different cultures and experiences. And, you know, we've got someone staying with us who's from England. We've got someone else staying with us who's half Chinese and half Indian. You know, we have curry cook-offs. It's just this beautiful thing that happens when you share your space with somebody else. It's sure there's some things that need to shift. You do have to shift your behaviors and your expectations slightly. They have to as well. But when you become comfortable and you find that happy medium, it's really easy to kind of, for all parties just to slip into it. And there's a mutual respect that happens with that. And it's just such a beautiful experience. I could not imagine not living without additional people in my home.
Why do you think, Ludwina, that people would have a resistance to sharing their space with someone?
Look, first up, I'm going to say that house sharing isn't for everyone. And if you're listening to this and you're going, ugh, you know, you're probably one of them. And there's no judgment to you. It's just there are some people who just really prefer to not have to make those adjustments. They want to stay how they want to live in their home, or there might be multiple other reasons that, you know, we don't know about, personal health, a number of different reasons why people don't. And we're really supportive of the fact that please don't do this unless you really want to do this, because everyone's going to be uncomfortable. And no one ever wants to feel uncomfortable in their own home, let alone the homeowner.
Yeah.
We're bringing somebody in, you don't want them to feel uncomfortable either. So please don't feel pressured if that's the case.
Yeah.
But sorry, I forgot your question.
That's okay. Why would someone have resistance to
resistance? Yeah, so it's that. It might also not might. Homeowners don't buy a home with the intention of becoming house sharers. So, you know, they've probably got no idea of how to do it. And that's, you know, we have a bunch of different resources and support services to help people with that. So that could be that reason. So, you know, before you decide against it, know that, you know, you can utilize our technology completely on your own for free. Even the verification is free. or you can utilize, I haven't said it anywhere yet, Sarah, but we're going to be releasing house sharing coaches as part of our services next year. So we can assign you with a house sharing coach who can help you as much or as little as you like. And then, we have digital resources that we have available as well. The Complete Homeowner's Guide to House Sharing. That's a product that you can purchase for $97. It's got everything in it: templates, information, planning, how to have the right conversations. Everything is in that. So there's a bunch of different ways depending on where you're at. But people who are resistant, I think, are primarily because they just don't know how, or they're not ideally suited to it, or they just live in a home that literally, even though they've got a spare bedroom, it's just not conducive to having an additional person in it. So, we're looking at 10% of the 13 million rooms.
So let's like dive into that then. So who would this be ideal for?
So first up, just anybody who is, as a homeowner, anyone who's looking to come up with the additional income to help cover costs. But at the same token, it's got to be something that you want to do, because as I said, it's really super important that you feel at home in your own home. Finding somebody who is, the underlying values, personality traits, they're the most important things to get on. It could be a different gender, could be a different age range, could be a different culture. You really don't know who it's going to be. It's just that underlying values and personality.
Yeah.
So that's it in a generality, but we have, elderly people, whether they're widowed or still living with their spouse, but live in very big homes that they're sort of rattling around in. We have a rent offset option. The rent offset option allows you to request, to negotiate the rent for additional help around the house, such as cooking, cleaning, or childcare. So if you're an elderly person living in your home and it requires some maintenance, it's just too heavy lifting for you, you can have somebody come and live in your home for free and say, well, look, can you help out 8 hours a week around the house? And that usually roughly works out pretty reasonable for, $250 a week. The amount of help, so they could do the mowing, maybe hang out the laundry. The mere fact that they're actually there at night can often give their adult children peace of mind. So a lot of people are actually signing up on the platform just for that. We have women over 50 who post-divorce are looking for affordable housing options. So this is definitely, and we actually like matching them up with the elderly people because they're a bit closer to, well, they're not elderly, so I don't want to say they're elderly, but, it's interesting how a lot of people think that university students are great with elderly people, but elderly people generally like someone who's a bit closer to their age. With professional couples who have bought their first house that, need that additional push to help pay the mortgage. There could be single people who are just super lonely, fly in, fly out households where somebody's there on their own for a long period of time. International students, university students. International students is a big one because the universities in Australia cannot function without having the international students because they help to prop it up.
Yeah.
There's a number of reasons. Coastal towns, regional Australia. We're actually going to be doing a series of LinkedIn audio events where we're going to be talking about various different aspects of the housing, including regional Australia. The opportunity costs are huge because they can't house people, so that's saying no to events and things like that. So that's having an economic impact.
Yeah.
Coastal towns who, in the peak season, they can't house their hospitality workers. You can't go down and get a coffee in a, fairly decent amount of time on a Sunday morning. You got to wait for an hour because there's just no staff there to serve you. There's a whole lot of, reasons why people use our platform, whether you're a homeowner or a renter. But there's just as many reasons for lifestyle choice as there is for financial choice. It just depends on where the person is. The demographic of the person really isn't as much of a specific kind of, I guess, way to give you an idea of it as it is more about the need that they have. And the need all stems back to the same thing. It's the cost of living, the cost of housing.
Yeah, because everyone, like you said earlier, everyone's feeling the pinch at the moment with cost of living. And I think what a great initiative. Like if I had because where I'm actually renting, we do have a spare room, but we won't be able to do that because we're renters, but if we own this home, absolutely, because I don't like cooking, so it would be great to have someone here that actually cooked meals for us and helped out there whilst helping them with a roof over their head. So I love this initiative. And for anyone listening, and if they are intrigued, Ludwina, or would like to explore how they can share their voice in getting the Room Xchange out there more, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, well, definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. My name's up on the screen there. But please send me a message and let me know that you saw this conversation.
Yeah, and I'll put your website and your LinkedIn on there.
Yeah, cool. We're at the Room Xchange, and Exchange is XCHANGE. So the roomxchange.com, or at the Room Xchange on all our socials. We're interested in having conversations actually with people in the real estate sector, Sarah. So I believe that house sharing needs to become real estate's third option. So we have home ownership, renting, house sharing, and for those property managers who are having to turn away so many people, you could actually be sharing with the individuals, hey, go over to the Room Xchange. It's an option that you can have while the housing market settles down. Like I think next year's, 2024 is going to be a very tough year, and we're here. Shoot us an email, admin@theroomxchange.com. You can always book a call with us through the website. We are reachable everywhere. It's not just a platform where you're going to get a bot response. We actually do want to talk to you, particularly if you're a homeowner considering this. We can go through the process of that with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And let you know what's available. Yeah.
And Ludwina, I had the absolute honor of actually meeting you at an event this year, which the beautiful Ma connected with us. And I came up to you afterwards because your energy is amazing, right? You're an absolute boss when it comes to everything that you've done. And it's just amazing. And I always love chatting to you. But from today, it's your passion is there, your purpose is there. The resilience has been there because through the times that you have had and really getting this off the ground, and the impact that you are having, and so many people that you will be able to help. So I really encourage any listeners today or watching back is please get in touch with Ludwina. And I think the greatest thing that we can do, and our gift as human beings, is to be of service and to get involved in your community. And it doesn't cost anything to just do a video and talk about or with Ludwina about what she's doing and how she can help, or to have that conversation with someone that is a renter and perhaps is struggling and is looking for an alternative. So Ludwina, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been an absolute pleasure just chatting with you. I know we've had multiple chats, and looking forward to also the other thing, next year you're looking to attend some real estate conferences as well, so I do want to plug that in as
absolutely. Yeah. I'm a prolific speaker, so I'd love to get on stage and talk about how we can be involved in helping the real estate sector with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what, I think 2024 is going to be a good year for you, and a lot of people are going to need your help, and people will come your way, I'm sure, right? That's how it works. People need you, and we're going to help you, Ludwina, and get this message out there to more and more people.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I really appreciate your support, very much so.
Pleasure. And we'll look forward to catching up with you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks, Ludwina.